Friday night, late night happy hour. Dave Cokin here with us. Was that milk of magnesia or a shot? Or were you just drinking there?
Pure leaf iced tea.
So disappointing.
Yeah,
so
I know.
disappointing. Not spiked? Not spiked?
Nah. No, my drinking days are diminishing substantially. I don't like they just I get a hangover if I have I stopped I haven't had a hangover in decades now.
Right.
Because I just don't do that anymore. But no, I got to have Tums nearby if I drink anything. So the hell with it.
What a nightmare. Something special to be an old drunk. I'm hoping to get there someday. Hopefully my stomach can take it.
Well, and beyond that, I'm still, when I'm done with this, I'm going to get back to some NHL work for tomorrow. And,
right.
Not a good idea to do that with a foggy brain.
Yeah. Being lit up is not good for your handicapping, not good for your bankroll.
No, it's kind of like what always cracked me up is that there used to be people you don't hear this anymore, but I actually used to hear this when I was younger. It's like, I drive better when I'm drunk. I concentrate more.
You sure do.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Do you remember days like 80s, 90s when you were a little more rambunctious, where you would go party a little bit and then you're like, fuck, like the next couple of days you just weren't on gambling wise, like it screwed you up?
No, because I've always taken it. I've always taken this real seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm pretty meticulous as far as record keeping and stuff like that goes, and I just can't make mistakes like that. Especially if you've got people paying for your picks, because they can get really pissed off if you.
Oh yeah.
If you lose a game because you got it wrong, that's one thing, but it's kind of inexcusable to lose a game because you were sloppy with your work.
Right. Dave would never smoke weed. Don't be this is outrageous.
What?
Outrageous. He said you should smoke weed. So I was trying to have your back and say you would never do that.
Yeah, I would, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, you got to watch it.
Yeah, and I love, I'm able to concentrate more and focus more when I got a buzz. No, you don't.
Yeah.
That's bullshit, okay? It's enjoyable, but work and pot don't mix that well. Unless you're selling pot for a living, in which case then I guess maybe that would be an exception.
So we have a bunch of baseball to get into, believe it or not. A week before the Super Bowl, there was a mega trade tonight. We'll get into that with Nolan Arenado in just a couple of minutes. I wanted to loop Dave in on what was going on today and yesterday with the Raiders, which I think has turned into a media guys kind of drawing the line in the sand. It's weird. So, Dave, did you see the story yesterday? Vic Tafur from The Athletic was writing about the Raiders and accountability issues going up to the top with the coach and the GM. But it started with after that Dolphins game when they freaking blew the game against the Dolphins. They had the penalty. Dolphins were able to freaking find a wide open receiver down the sideline, kick a field goal at the end. It was like one of the most shocking losses we've seen in years. Well, apparently Nelson Aguilar, according to Vic Tafur, walks in the locker room afterwards and just fucking goes ballistic. And he's just like, there's no accountability. This sucks. You guys suck, and melted down. And then Tafur's source said Gruden didn't really say anything after that. Now, I explained on the air, if, it's the end of the season. If a player steps up there and just shits all over everybody, I don't know that you need to back him up and then scream at everyone again. So the Gruden part I don't care about. But it's a story of Aguilar doing it. What do you think of that in general? A player doing that? Is it right? Is it wrong? Does it sound unusual?
I don't have a problem with it. If he feels that the rest of the team or certain members of the team weren't giving their best effort, which kind of sounds like, then he's got every right to call him out. If you're on a team, you're supposed to do whatever you can to win the game, whether the game means anything or not. That's being a professional. No, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Just wondering in the chat room if you saw the story and what you thought of Vic's story saying, Aguilar got up there, screamed at everybody. Gruden didn't say anything. It's not like he didn't back him up, but he didn't say anything. And then Vic said he did follow up in the last couple of days after hearing the story recently. And, hey, did Aguilar do this? And all Gruden sent back was, I love Aguilar. So
Well, he's doing a little Belichick-itis there,
Yeah.
which is that's okay if he wants to keep things in house.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that. I've never really had a problem with coaches who don't want to tell the media anything. It's it's not
Yeah.
their job to do so. It's the media's job to kind of coax it out of them if they can. And some guys you can press the right button and get those quotes, and some guys you can't.
Yep.
Gruden has always been one that you can usually get the quotes out of, but maybe he's going to change a little bit. From a coaching standpoint, I actually prefer the guys who don't say anything. I mean, as a handicapper, I wish they would. I want everybody to be wide open, but looking at it from a what's best for the team situation, I've always been a believer in loose lips sink ships. What's said in the clubhouse is supposed to stay in the clubhouse.
Yep. Now, if you had a player doing that like 5 or 6 times a year, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous at that point.
Right.
And Gruden does nothing. It's absurd. I mean, that you can't. That's a fractured team. I mean, I think you'll talk to a lot of coaches. I know you talk to coaches where they'll be like, every once in a while we need a player to step up. You got to be player led. Can't always be the coaches and us yelling at him, trying to motivate him, trying to be accountable. So the way Vic wrote the story, and I know you didn't see it, but in general, when you have a source, is this fair game, like to write it, or is it irresponsible to write something like this?
Ooh, that's a tough one because if you can't name the source, do you really have a source? Unfortunately, over the years, and I'm not saying that this is the case with this writer. Okay, I don't know him, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on his integrity, but we do know there's actually been movies about writers who have used sources that didn't really exist. They just made the shit up. Now, this does not sound like one of those situations, but they do happen, and that's why unnamed source can often be a bartender who you talk to and who has no real knowledge on the subject.
Right.
I think the only thing, sometimes what I'll do is it's not for a story so much as if for information as far as handicapping goes, I'll say it comes from a source within the program. I can't say who it is, but I'll say that it is within the program.
Right.
So at least there's something to it.
Well, this was your typical, hey, it's a Raiders source.
And again, I'm not saying anything. I'm not knocking Vic here because chances are it actually is. But there are cases when the Raiders source, I don't know, it could be a parking lot attendant who works at Allegiant.
Right.
And again, I'm just saying that stuff does happen. It's tough. That's part of the problem with media exposure nowadays is that everything is from a source, especially in the political world. It's all from a source. How reliable is the source? And believe me, I'm not a fake news guy, but I know there's a lot of fake news out there attributed to sources that aren't really sources.
Yeah, I trust Vic on this one. I trust his sources. Yeah. He's been around the Raiders for a long time. I think he's got good sources. And it goes all the way up to the top. I'm not saying Mayock or Gruden told him this story. In a way, it would be counterproductive because he wound up talking about how the lack of accountability goes up to Gruden and Mayock and, said, hey, they had a terrible offseason with their free agent signings and their draft picks. So there are people in the media who are like, this is irresponsible. I wouldn't write anything like that. That's not cool. Then there's a tweet that comes out, and Vic is at The Athletic. There's a tweet that comes out from one Vinny Bonsignore, who's new to Vegas and has been covering the Raiders now for a couple of years. And Vinny puts out, like right before it was at 1:00 today, FYI, another Raider source said what happened after the Dolphins loss is pretty much standard stuff. It actually happens in every loss. Okay, if you're going to counter the other story, one, he basically just confirmed that Aguilar did do it. But the Raiders source said a player getting up and screaming at the team and the coach not saying anything afterwards is standard stuff. And beyond that, this source said a player getting up and telling everyone they suck and they're not accountable. It happens after every loss. Excuse me?
No, and if it does, it's usually not from a wide receiver. No, not knocking a wide receiver, but if Tom Brady goes on a rant on the sidelines, which we've seen him do on occasion over the years, that's one thing. It's Brady. Most players can't do that. And if they did that, if it happened all the time, you'd have a lot of fractured locker rooms. So I don't buy that.
So what would you do? And I'm not questioning, Vinny, what he's going to report and what he isn't. If a source told me that, and it's sort of, it doesn't really counter what Tafer said. It sort of minimizes Tafer's story. If a source said that, I don't even know that I would go with it. Like, it's not even believable.
I don't find it believable. I don't know Vincent, and maybe he does. So that's something different. But I don't know. The pro teams I've been around, it didn't happen after every loss.
No, there's no way.
Okay, it just didn't.
Because you have
almost never
you'd have a coach, because then you're usurping power from the coach. The coach eventually, if it happened like back-to-back games, the coach would be like, "Sit down, God damn it, shut up! Like, it's my job, okay? I don't need you screaming at the team back-to-back weeks. We got the message last week. Maybe it didn't get through, but stop, okay? Just stop."
I would agree with that. I would disagree that it happens in every loss.
Yeah, my
opinion.
So this appears to be a little media beef now, because then Tafer retweeted Vinny's story and had a GIF with it where I think it was Post Malone. It was kind of, I can't even describe it. It was like, oh, okay, like, oh, okay, someone else said something different. Okay, shocking. So then people started getting after Vinny, some of the fans, and tweeters following him on Twitter, and he decided to retweet this one, which I thought was really interesting. Let me punch it up here. Sorry, we're producer list tonight. A fan came at him. Someone calling themselves Jeff Moss. Let me enlarge it here. And says, "Vinny, love your team info, but these answers are starting to sound like JT. Are starting to sound shillish. Got to spit the truth, my man. Thanks for all the hard work." And Vinny actually retweeted that. I was like, I don't know.
Well, first of all, on JT worked for the Raiders, so that's a completely different situation. JT is not pretending to be an independent media guy when it comes to the Raiders. He works for the Raiders. Yeah. So that's a bad take. It's not. Well, it's not. He's not. It's JT doesn't shill for them. But he is positive as far as the Raiders are concerned, which is part of his job.
Right.
Okay.
What we've stumbled upon here, though, and this I thought this might be a problem from a perception standpoint, is Vinny does work for our station in-house at Lotus, Raider Nation Radio 920, and I thought from the beginning there may be some fans out there who are like, "You're on the station branded the Raiders station. Are you going to tell us the truth?"
And there's something to that.
What would you do if Lotus came to you and they said, "Hey, we want you to work on Raider Nation Radio 920," and they don't necessarily tell you, "Hey, you know what? We want positive most of the time." What do you do?
You got to do what you think is right. I mean, look, using us as an example, it wasn't direct heat, but we would be informed indirectly by people at UNLV were not happy when we would be critical of UNLV, especially the basketball program.
When do you remember?
We did it anyway.
How the only time I remember hearing that was when that dude Perk was there.
Yep.
But it stopped after that.
Yep. But it did exist then.
There is a little difference, because you're right. We do have partnerships with UNLV, right, both football and basketball, and it's essentially women's basketball. We've got partnerships with the Golden Knights. We've got partnerships now with the Raiders. Did you dial it down when you heard from management, "Hey, you know what? They're not happy"? Did you dial it down?
Uh, I can't say no because I was never hypercritical anyway. I mean, sometimes you just have to criticize. It wasn't in a nasty way.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that is I've never felt comfortable crushing college athletes because they're not getting paid. They're just going to school. The pros, it's a different story entirely.
Right.
I think of the pros, whether it's your team or not. Hey man, that's so. If there's criticism warranted, you just go with it. College, it just is a different story. They're not professional athletes, and that's why there have been certain guys over the years who we know weren't maybe giving it their best effort. More in basketball because that was the program that got attention, but you kind of kept that stuff under the wraps, not to protect anybody, but it's like, yeah, he's not getting paid $10 million a year, so maybe he's not as much fair game. But there was still some criticism. I mean, look, going back to Anthony Bennett, we were critical of him, and critical of the program for saying, well, he's got asthma. Really? Okay, there was some doubt cast on that by us, and I think I was one who said, I don't know, I think maybe he could be in better shape.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, I think I got that one right.
I think you did. I think it was a combo, but yeah, the asthma thing came up out of nowhere, and they were trying to protect him. And in the end, I don't know. I don't know that they really protected him. He got his money. He was a first round pick, but he flamed out because I think that also that made him feel like he was unable to continue to kind of work at a 70% clip instead of 100% and get himself in shape.
Well, the fact was, he would get winded very quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
he could play about 6 minutes at a time going hard, and they'd have to rest him. And I'd have to look back how many times he played over 30 minutes. I don't know that it was a bunch of games.
No. And let's just say he didn't have the most athletic body you've ever seen. So yeah, I thought maybe the conditioning was not. Yeah. I thought the conditioning was lacking there.
He played in bursts, and he couldn't play defense.
No. Look, I mean, we're not. No kidding. We were delighted to see him go number 1 overall because it was good for the school. But it was like, really? Yeah. That's a number 1 overall pick. That might not work out, and it didn't.
By the way, back to the responsibility of media members, and I think at times all of us in radio get called pansies, and we're being weak on teams, and we're aligned with teams. People will come at me about UNLV and say because I'm doing the sidelines. I think if you actually listen, I don't know that I hold back a whole lot. But this one's interesting. Truth from Duluth says you'd become the dumbest show on K-Fan because Paul Allen, who's on there, is just pure Vikings propaganda trash. That's next level. When you're the play-by-play guy.
Well, but play-by-play guys.
That is tough. That's tough to do a local radio show and skewer the organization when things aren't going well. It's really tough. Especially because that's what you sign up for if you're a play-by-play guy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, see that I can give a pass to because they are homers to begin with. They're paid to be home. They're literally paid to be homers, and they've got to travel with the team. And we've seen instances over the years where announcer A or B was critical of somebody on the team, and it really blew up. Dennis Eckersley, David Price, the most recent that really blew up. I mean, that got nasty.
By the way, was fucking absurd because what Eck said was so benign. He didn't really say anything, and David Price was a freaking giant baby.
But it still was that situation where, well, he was a little critical of Price, and they're traveling together on the road, and didn't work out very well. Fortunately, the Red Sox did not cave in and diminish Eckersley's role. He remained very visible in the booth, and I give him credit for that.
Yeah, and I've heard Paul Allen on the games. I know he can get critical. I actually think he just gets really mopey and then starts letting his feelings out. Like he obviously got really frustrated when Favre fucked things up at the end. But I don't get to listen to his show enough, so I'm just going off of what Truth said that he's not real critical about the Vikings.
I grew up with the biggest homer of all time, Johnny Most. doing the Celtics games.
Yeah.
He's the original Homer. Because back then, most of the announcers were Ernie Harwell types who they might have a rooting interest, but they never showed it. They were very much as unbiased as possible. In fact, they bent over backwards to be impartial. This is back in the 1960s, and the other team they were the enemy. Okay, he gave them nasty nicknames. I still remember the Rulin and Mahorn. He wouldn't call them by name. He would call them McFilthy and McNasty.
Yeah.
And Celtics fans loved it. There were a few who hated it,
Right.
but most absolutely loved it. It's like, hey, he's one of us. That's commonplace now.
Did Johnny Most ever do like a 2-hour talk show though? Because that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, when you sign up to be the play-by-play guy doing a talk radio show, we were expected to be, not down the middle, but if you need to be critical of your local team, you can be critical. It's different when you take on that responsibility. I don't know that Johnny Most ever did a talk show.
I would doubt it. I think that was before talk shows. He did other sports on TV, but not. He was basically the Celtics. Somebody mentioned Chick Hearn. Chick was semi-homer. I would say semi.
Chick was a nice homer.
Yeah. Look, there was no question who he was rooting for, but he wasn't over the top with it.
Did he go after?
He would definitely celebrate victories.
Did he go after the other team and call them names?
No.
Yeah.
No. There's a fine line. I think now there are fewer guys who are willing to criticize the home team than there used to be. I believe that to be, and that's not a scientific data type of thing on my part. It's just an opinion. But I think that there's more Hawk Harrelsons out there now than there used to be. And the funny thing is, though, Hawk would be critical at times. It's just people overlooked it. But if somebody did something stupid in the field, he called them out.
Brady says, I need to come up with nicknames for UNLV opponents on the sidelines.
I don't think I can help you there.
That one's interesting. I don't know that would jive with the rest of the broadcast. So I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, the UNLV broadcasts are not over. They're not. To me, they've never been over the top homerism. I think John Sandler, his main target is never the other team; it's the officials. John will go after the officials, and he will do it really well. Okay, John he's top of the class at just annihilating officials.
That by the way, he's horrible right. Call.
Yeah, I wait for moments like that.
Mount Sandler.
It's good, and usually it's on a call that was probably not very good, and he'll okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I kind of like that because I am rooting for the home team a little bit, so it's like okay, that's all right. It's not over the top though.
I was getting after Craig Smith a little bit, but not doing it obnoxiously the other night. I was just kind of talking about him working the officials, and what it could lead to. So I actually think it worked because the first half of the second Utah State game against UNLV, let's see. You know what's funny? He was complaining. I actually think it backfired on him. There was a I don't know what the referee's name was. The tallest referee out there, whatever. That doesn't mean anything to anybody, but just my recollection. The Utah State got out to I would call it it would be a 1-7 lead. Like UNLV had 7 fouls and Utah State had 1 in the first half. And then, they started calling more fouls, and he was griping a lot. And the under 4 minute in the first half, Craig Smith was working one of the officials, and he worked him a bunch of times. And I was like, I don't know if this is working. And then the second half, it got reversed, and Utah State came out with 7 fouls. UNLV was in the bonus, and UNLV still only had 2. So sometimes it doesn't work. But my whole point is, during the broadcast, I was trying to point out, doing the sidelines, like he's working this, and he's doing it again. Like he had them review David Jenkins on a 3-ball where Jenkins got fouled, but he and the entire Utah State sideline were like, Jenkins kicked out his foot. Go review that, which I didn't even know was reviewable after the play is dead. But they actually went to the monitors and I guess looked to see if he flagrantly, or I guess, beyond that, kicked out his leg. So Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, you got to know the refs. Some officials you can maybe get to, and others are going to react in just the opposite way. It's like, okay, I'm going to screw you on every call I can now.
The night before, there was an official who actually apologized to Craig Smith for a call.
Really?
Yeah, which weird. Was like, sorry, Craig. Sorry, my mistake. Like,
well,
wait, what?
Okay. I guess, if it was a real bad call,
Yeah.
all right, I blew that one. I always thought it was pretty cool of, was the umpire Joyce, was it? That screwed up Galarraga's perfect game?
Yeah.
He apologized, and that was
he carried
was
it for a long. He carried it for a long time too.
I know.
He was really emotional the night that he screwed up a perfect game.
It's one of the most memorable bad calls in baseball history, because perfect games don't happen very often, and for Galarraga, they weren't happening at all. Okay, he was a fringe pitcher who just had the game of his life, and well.
Is there a better rough combo than Bill Clinton ref, John Higgins, and Dave Hall? The better combo would be Bill Clinton ref, John Higgins, and no Dave Hall. How about that?
Dave is not the most well-regarded official on the Mountain West.
He's like, where's the spotlight? Where is it?
He's not TV Teddy, though.
Well, I mean, that got to the point.
He was the best.
Yeah, that got ridiculous. He got dumped by multiple conferences because they're like, this is fucking outrageous.
Well, he liked the camera, and I guess he does games now, right? In the broadcast booth.
Does he really?
I think so. I think he's doing I think he's doing some analysis someplace. Yeah,
fitting, right? Just like Sterator. He red light Gene because Gene with that stupid, what was it, the Raider game with the fucking index card where he came out. Like, no, Raider fans will never forget that. And he talks about it now. He thinks it's the funniest thing ever. And it's like, dude, that wasn't funny.
No, that's right there with the triplet screw up on the coin flip, and I forget which game it was, but he actually screwed up the coin flip, which is tough to do.
Yeah, Dave Hall, the Angel Hernandez of the Mountain West.
Now there's another. See, yeah. I won't put Dave Hall in that category.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Dave is a vindictive.
No.
Which Angel Hernandez is. Angel Hernandez is totally confrontational. He starts arguments, literally starts arguments with players. And he is, we talk about jobs where the union is overly protective of some people who probably shouldn't have the job anymore. That's one on the umpires. He's a crew chief now. And that guy's a bad umpire. Not just from the standpoint of, he misses calls, but he actually starts fights with players. And umpires aren't supposed to do that.
Yep.
That's why I think he's the worst umpire in baseball. I don't think he gets calls. I think there's a couple of other guys who get calls wrong more. C.B. Buckner comes to mind. But they're not confrontational. Les Diaz is also Les Diaz might fit that bill as well. Yeah.
Joe West is bad.
Joe West got old.
Yeah,
Joe West he used to be a really good umpire.
Yeah, he's gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's funny. Adam Hill says something about officials that I think sticks. If an official gets really fucking pissed off at a coach and eventually texts him, it's almost an admission that the coach got to him because he knows he was wrong.
Yep.
Like now you're trying to embarrass me, and it's like, no, you made a bad call, and I'm going to flip out. Like, don't punish me more. You already made a bad call.
And as far as Joe West is concerned, he is another example of somebody. Look, he shouldn't be working big league games anymore.
Of course not. Yeah.
He's just slow.
Yep.
At this point. And he gets calls wrong. And again, he was a really good umpire for a long time. I mean, West he basically got everything right. But he got old. And it's not officiating is not for old guys, because the game moves pretty quickly, and you got to be sharp. That's the biggest gripe I have with the NFL. I think the NFL has actually gotten better in the last few years at phasing out some of the really old guys who clearly were past their prime. And they need to do more of that. You need younger guys out there.
Yep. So baseball. Before we get to the Cardinals deal, I got to mention, were you following the stock stuff the last 3 days with the hedge funds getting destroyed by Reddit investors? Because immediately in baseball, the story came up, hey, this guy, Steve Cohen, He's a hedge fund guy, richest owner in baseball, worth like $14 billion, and he got crushed the last 3 days, and people started mocking on the Mets. I assume this guy is not going to let this seep into his decisions about the Mets because he got hit hard on Wall Street.
I would hope not. We've already seen, however, that the Mets have a history of ownership with no money, and it's to me maybe the worst thing Schilling did was not force the Mets to be sold when they were clearly out of money. Might not have been their fault; they were out of money because the owners got ripped off in a Ponzi scheme. But I'm sorry, you can't keep the team if you can't run it properly. And he basically let Wilpon stay on because they were his pals. And
I would say
that was bad for baseball.
I would say two of the worst commissioner moves of the last 25 years. One is Schilling letting the Mets stay around and operate like they were market 25, which is just outrageous that all of a sudden they're running a tight budget with a New York team. If you can't afford to own the team, get out. All right, sorry, or get investors and
right.
Then you own 10% of the team, maybe until you can buy back. But that was ridiculous. And of course, the other one was David Stern reversing the Chris Paul deal to the Lakers and then gifting him to the Clippers. I mean, think about the ridiculousness of that. And rest in peace, Dave. But he fucked the Lakers for 10 years. He fucked one of his freaking major organizations. He put him behind the 8 ball for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and he gifted Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling!
Of all people.
But again, you know what that was? That's David Stern and his ego. And at the time, they were kind of just they were carrying the Pelicans, right? It was a Pelicans trade, and the league was serving as a GM, and he looked at the deal, and I think he made a bad judgment call. They got plenty in the deal, but look at it. He screwed one of his standard bearers in the league for up to 10 years. So smart move. Ridiculous. Yep. And obviously this is the other one. I'm sure Dave will freaking melt down on this one, but how did they ever let this jackass in?
Oh my God. Oh.
Had no money.
Oh. Where is he now? Is he still around?
I have no idea. Didn't he come from the movie and TV industry? So maybe he went back.
I don't know.
Just went back to doing it.
All I know is he vanished from the scene.
That was ridiculous.
Which was good. I mean, there's been a few bad owners over the years, and McCourt versus Sterling is close. I actually think McCourt might have been worse. I mean, Sterling was an asshat.
Yep.
But McCourt, I can't say anything. I don't want to say anything that would make me liable, so I won't go into detail. But there were some things that took place there, and some of it wasn't even reported on.
Yeah.
It was really bad, really bad.
And when we're talking about bad commissioners, we're not going to leave out Garr because he also fucked up with this guy buying the Islanders.
Yeah. It happens. Nobody's perfect. I mean, commissioners make mistakes. The problem is if they...
Jeffrey Lurie, I forgot about him too.
Lurie is right there as my other C-League beef. Yep. I mean, what he did in Montreal was just flat out wrong. And his reward was getting another franchise.
Another franchise and then going
into the ground.
Yeah, and then going down to Miami with his little guy David Sampson, who, by the way, I love that he's just moved into the media and people are like, oh, good stuff. Like, he's a dirtbag. They're both dirtbags. They stole $300 million plus with false information from the city of Miami to build that stadium.
Which, by the way, I've never been there, but that artwork, which is no longer there, that was an obscenity.
Yes, of course.
Okay, it was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in a baseball field. It's like, what the fuck is that? Get that out. This is a baseball stadium, okay? You want to start an art museum, buy a warehouse someplace and put it in there. And the Marlins are still paying for his mistakes.
Oh yeah. Well, when the sale went down, the new ownership is incurring like what? I thought it was upwards of like $300 or $400 million debt right off the top that went into the deal. That's why the price was so low. They only went for like what, 1.1 billion or 1.2 billion. All right, so the big it's crazy that we're talking baseball on a Friday night, but we finally got some movement, right? We're finally getting some free agents signed. Wonder what was going on with that, but Ooh, this is your classic case of, and I'm not ripping them. This is a classic case tonight of evil empire pillaging and stealing from the poor or the unwilling in baseball. And yes, the Cardinals are an evil empire because they do this all the time. And I don't care, what Midwesterners, how they want to paint the Cardinals, like the little gritty St. Louis Cardinals. They've always been a bully on the block. And when they can step in and grab one of these players, like the Red Sox have done, like the Cubs used to do, like the Yankees do, like the Eagles will do, the Phillies will do, like the Dodgers will do, like the Angels should fucking do. You do it. Right? When Nolan Arenado is available and the stupid team that's quitting is going to throw $50 million into the package, you do it. Is there a downside to this for the Cardinals? Is Arenado on his way down? Is he phony because of the elevation?
His defense sure isn't phony. That guy's one of the best third basemen I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he'll still hit. He's not going to put the numbers that he put up at Coors. And he could be in slight decline. Overall, I mean, he's not young anymore,
right?
But he's still a real good ball player, and he does shift the balance of power in the National League Central, especially with the Cubs going down, the Pirates non-existent. It's a close division, and the Cardinals are a good organization. I mean, they just are. They're a very smart organization. I would say they have to go in as the favorite now. I mean, they're better run than the Reds. They're not necessarily better run than the Brewers, but they do have certain advantage over the Brewers. And it's a sharp move on their part. And as for the Rockies, well, I can't overly criticize them because they did make the playoffs a couple of times. But they're kind of looking at things and saying, well, we suck right now. We're really bad. So let's start dismantling. I mean...
But Dave, here's the problem. They're part of like 10 teams in Major League Baseball who are really not going to try this year. A third of the game, these teams are going to have payrolls south of $80 million. Yep. Jeff Passan wrote about it.
Well, they should have gotten more.
Yeah, of course. That's the obscene part. It's obnoxious.
Right.
At least we understand salary dumps.
Yes.
But you generally get at least one guy who's usable and then like two or three other guys who you're going to roll the dice on. I mean, they're getting the pitcher's 27 years old. He's a lefty. Is he even a starter? Long range. I mean, he was kind of a swing guy. What's it? Gomber, right?
Yeah. He's okay. His stuff at Coors, he's not a heat pitcher. You want power arms in Colorado. Yeah, look, I don't have a problem with salary dumps as long as you get at least reasonable value in return. When the Padres were not the current Padres, the Padres of a few years ago were dumping, they were getting some real good prospects in return. Not all of them worked out because prospects don't always work out. Right. But I mean, they got some good people in return for the guys they were dumping. And it was like, especially with the Red Sox, it's like, okay, the Red Sox got a good player here, but they had to pay for him. I don't think the Cardinals had to pay at all for Arenado.
No. I mean, White Sox dumped, right? White Sox dumped. Got a lot of good players. Got a lot of good players back. It's the core of what they've got now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the sale deal, I mean, they got some real. You can't do much about the pitcher who got hurt, and he still might be fine, Kopech. Yeah. And Mancado's a really good player.
Oh yeah.
So that was a very fair trade for both teams. White Sox were not going to be able to keep Chris Sale, and they got a lot for him.
Now,
I mean, the Cardinals. Look, let me put it this way: the Rockies should have at least gotten Colton Wong. Okay. By the way, he's a good ball player, but the Cardinals could afford to move him.
Right.
You got to get at least that. And maybe then you can get Gomber, Wong, prospect. Yeah, Wong. I know Wong's a free agent, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. There has to be a major league player involved,
right?
And there isn't. If Gomber's the best guy you got, he's a quad A. Right now, he's a quad A pitcher. He might get better. He also might not. Again, I'll point to his stuff is not the kind of stuff that translates well to that ballpark.
So that note I was mentioning about the bottom of baseball really not trying. Let's see. Texas, Milwaukee, Detroit, Oakland, Seattle, Baltimore, Miami, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh so far have spent less than $50 million. 10 teams have spent less than $50 million on free agents.
Indians, I think, spent some money tonight. Looks
Okay.
like they're going to give $8 million to Edwin Rosario.
Okay.
Which actually shocked me. That's actually a great move by the Indians.
Yeah.
They take a really good player away from a divisional opponent. They're not giving him huge money, so it kind of fits as far as that goes. But I mean, they actually picked up a good ball player, and their outfield stinks. So that's a really nice pickup for Cleveland. But the rest of them,
they've combined to spend less than $50 million. So that's 10 teams spending less than $5 million on average in the offseason. That's ridiculous. The other note about the sub $80 million payroll, let's see. The last time that happened with this many teams was 2013. League-wide revenues at the time were $7 billion. Even with the drop, the struggles right now for baseball with the pandemic, you're talking about $9 or $10 billion in revenue. And now you've got more and more teams trying to go on the cheap and quit, which, hey, the only way that stops, Dave, is for the guys who are giving money in rev sharing to say, fuck this. This is nonsense. Spend our money. Get players.
Yeah, they need to do something as far as
salary floor.
Yeah, there's got to be a floor, and it's got to be a substantial floor. You you just can't have teams like that. The Pirates,
bad.
They can't. This is it's just ridiculous that they're allowed to exist like this.
Yep.
They don't even try. In fact, they do the opposite. It's like, oh, we better get this guy out of here because we're not going to be able to pay him, and that's just a big lie. And their fans fell for it for years.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, we're a small market. The fans, most of them have finally smartened up and realized that the Pirates don't care about winning at all. They just want to make money.
Who knows the Pittsburgh? I don't remember the Pittsburgh situation. How much money went into that stadium from a public standpoint?
No idea.
Right?
They do have, from what I gather, it's the crown jewel of Major League Baseball as far as stadiums are concerned. Even nicer than a couple of great ballparks on the West Coast. Everybody says it's absolutely awesome.
But for what purpose now?
Yeah, how about spend some money on the team and
team?
Yeah, get the fans. Well, I mean, no fans right now, but once things are back to normal, whenever that is, and Pittsburgh's a great sports town.
Yep.
So you can't even get away with. Well, we're a small market, really.
Yeah.
The Penguins have spent lots of money over the years and have had great results. The Steelers, I think the Steelers have done pretty well for the most part, haven't they?
Yep.
The Steelers, if you throw the Patriots out of the mix, you might not find a more successful franchise in terms of making the playoffs year after year after year than the Steelers. They've been a tremendous organization. So it's not more small market. You're not a small market. You have a small market mentality as far as the baseball team is concerned. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was actually at the time it was a pretty cheap stadium, but yeah, the Pirates gave $40 million of $262 million for the ballpark, and now they're turning around whatever it is 15 years later, and they're like, we can't compete, we have no money, and they've already been outed. They were outed years ago. Remember when Deadspin, old Deadspin, got a hold of the major league numbers, and the Pirates were one of the teams. Like, you're making money every year. What are you talking about?
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Not like they're making, they had a $6,000 profit this year. It was a lot of money. And the revenue sharing, they're just raking it in.
Yep.
And they're a joke. They're an embarrassment. That's the worst organization in Major League Baseball. Bar none. There are others that are poorly run. I think the Angels might qualify on that count.
Yeah.
But nobody tops the Pirates for being intentionally bad.
Well, Schilling loved this stuff. He loved the big market, small market thing. Obviously as a guy who had a team in Milwaukee. So he was all about, crying poor with the little guys and all about trying to break the union and, reduce the power of the players. I was going to ask the question, but I know the answer. Is Rob Manfred going to step up and go, hey, Pittsburgh, don't fucking do this?
No, apparently not, because he would have done it already.
Yep.
And that's a big disappointment.
It is.
It's just because I cannot, if it happened in Tampa, where they really are a small market. I mean, in that they're not anywhere near Tampa. Okay, they're in St. Petersburg / Clearwater. They're in a horrible stadium, and it's a bad sports town. It's just other things to do in Florida and Miami. I've always looked at Miami and Tampa as not real good sports towns. But they at least have an excuse. Oakland has an excuse.
Right.
Pittsburgh has no excuse. They have everything. It is a big enough market because the whole metropolitan Northeast is big market. All of it. Yep. They have a phenomenal facility. And we know that you cannot ever make the excuse that, Pittsburgh's not a very good sports town. It's a great sports town. So there is no excuse for the Pirates.
Yeah, truth from Duluth. Keep in mind, 600 billionaires in the USA made over $1 trillion. Is there an owner in baseball who, with their overall fortune, lost money the last year in the pandemic? What do you think? I'd love to see the numbers on that.
I would say no.
Were they just not part of this mix? They had bad luck? What, maybe there could be one who's highly vested in some kind of business that actually did get crushed in the pandemic. But beyond, I mean, most billionaires, you think they have their money all in one business? There's no fucking way.
No. And look, they're smart. Okay, they know how to move money around, so they're going to be fine. I mean, I wish I had that ability financially. I don't have the. I'm not sharp enough financially to do anything like that. I'm not knocking myself, but those guys are really good at what they do.
So one more point on the Cardinals. So how big a favorite should they be in the division? I saw they were like plus 350 to win the division, or now they like even money. Like, how much does one player add?
I think just off the top of my head, about 2-1 now.
Yeah,
I think he's worth a lot, and but of course there's some bias involved because I don't think the Reds are as good as people think they are, and the Cubs are going down, and the Brewers are okay but not great, and well, the Pirates, okay. So if they're in another division, they're not the best team, but in that division they do look like the best team.
Do you think that
they would not be the favorite in I don't think they might be the favorite in the AL Central. They would not be the favorite in the AL East. They would not be the favorite in the NL East or the West. I don't think they'd be the favorite in the AL West either. Might be the second choice there. So they're in the right division, and they definitely would appear to be in an advantageous situation. And they're a very well-run organization, so that if they need a piece come trade deadline, they'll go out and get it.
I think I like the Brewers more. Just with a quick look at their rosters. If the odds in the division get out of control, I'll take the Brewers.
It's close. I like the Brewers too. I think after that, I'm just not as high on the Reds as some people are. I wasn't last year either. I never have been over the years. And the other two, the Cubs will fast forward to 4 or 5 years down the road. They might be really good again, but right now they're not.
Did you get pissed off about anything with the Hall of Fame snubs across the board? Was there any player you got mad for, mad at?
No, not really. I've kind of done a little bit of a change on Schilling, who I've made the case, well, you should just go by what he did on the field. But that's just not the reality of the world anymore. Idealistically, it should be just about what a player did on the field. It's just not. It's just not. If you are willing to go out there publicly and make comments that are going to infuriate some people, well, you're probably going to have to pay some consequences. I'm more interested to see what happens because I didn't think anybody was going to get in this year.
Right.
I'm more interested to see what happens next year
because
it's David Ortiz's first year of eligibility. I think he will get in the first ballot, but I think it's going to be really close.
Really?
I think the reason he's going to get in, and there's some early polling that says he's around 65%, but I think that number is going to go up. And part of it is that he is extraordinarily popular. I think his popularity will have something to do with that. And he's popular with media guys too. There's a certain hardcore group that says, well, well, first of all, he never did test positive. He was, for some reason, I keep on seeing that he was in the Mitchell report. He was not in the Mitchell report.
Well, but there are claims that he was in that 2003.
Yes, right.
MLBPA widespread 600 players and 111 tested positive. They outed Arod as a positive.
Right.
They never officially. The report came out years later saying that Ortiz was part of the mix.
Right, but it was an anonymous study, and I'm not sure you should penalize somebody for that.
Well, the names weren't supposed to be released. The players agreed to it because that way, if they got, I think it was over the number was pretty low, but a certain number, if it was over 5%, they would kick in automatic testing, and then it wound up being 16% tested positive.
The other thing is that all happened before he became Big Papi. From 2003, he was just basically he was a fringe major leaguer basically at that point. I think his popularity is going to have a lot to do with it. I think he will get more votes than Arod.
Wow.
Even though, it's tough to argue that Arod was the better player, if for no other reason that, that he played the field and Ortiz didn't. But I think the postseason heroics, which are some of the best in baseball history, and his extraordinary popularity, I think might push him in the first ballot. And they're kind of going to need, I think they're going to need to get somebody in next year. You can't go 2 years in a row.
Why not?
I really don't think you can go.
The fake rules are the fake rules. I get what you're saying. If no one gets in next year, it's like the whole house of cards comes crumbling down. I got a counter on Ortiz though. Dave, he tested positive supposedly in the 2003 testing. That's exactly when he took off. That may have been when he started. I mean, he went from, you know this, but for the audience, 2002, he's with Minnesota. He arrives in Boston, right? He goes 31-101, 41-139, 47-148, 54-137, 35-117. And I'm not just outing Boston on this, but you can look at the rosters with Boston. You can look at the rosters with the Yankees. You can look at certain teams. You can go back to the Diamondbacks, which we can go into the whole Kurt Schilling thing. Mike, I'll tell you what, on Schilling, I still believe he used. I also don't believe he's good enough to be a Hall of Famer. But if you look at the teams that Schilling played for the majority of his time, the Phillies, if you go back and look at the 1994 Phillies, Jesus Christ, everyone was gigantic and had this incredible power surge. He goes to the Red Sox, and the Red Sox roster then, it was Hulks all over the field. Mm-hmm. He goes down to Arizona. You got Luis Gonzalez, who was a 6'1", 190 outfielder. He goes there. He's fucking built I don't know, name the pro wrestler, the goddamn Rock. His forearms, just insane. It's just, I think it's funny that, and Schilling had that same kind of career path. Schilling couldn't stay healthy. He had a couple of good years with the Phillies and a couple down years. Then all of a sudden he's 28, 29, 30, and he takes off. And then after that, he goes from 7.5 Ks per nine to 11. So, and here's the thing. I don't care. Let them all in. They were the best of an era where you could have had 50, 60% of the guys dabbling in something. Mm-hmm. They were the best. They're in.
Yeah, I look, I've been consistent in this. I think Bonds and Clemens belong in.
Of course.
I know. I understand. Do I think Barry Bonds used? Of course. He never tested positive. I mean, you are in this country. Technically, you're innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. Bonds never tested positive. It doesn't change my view that he did it, but because I'm sorry, but I just can't attribute the growth of his head to natural. It just doesn't happen naturally. But he's not. And I really think that Bonds and Clemens aren't in because Bonds in particular was not popular, wasn't well liked. I don't know whether Ortiz is borderline whether he gets in first ballot. They didn't let Piazza in first ballot, and Piazza was exceptionally popular. But he had the acne on the back, and there was just widespread belief that he used. And he got a 1-year penalty.
And Dave, another guy it's a miracle. He was the 58th round pick. Yeah, he came from out of nowhere. Yeah, there might be a reason. That he
also became a hell of a player. I mean, he really worked at it.
Oh, he was a good player. But when you see these amazing jumps like Jeff Bagwell and people are naming who said earlier someone said Piazza's in. He may have used. It's just.
But he didn't get in the first ballot.
Yeah. So that's a penalty.
He had to wait a year, and that might be the case.
You have to wait a couple of years, but if you're Bonds and Clemens, you have to wait forever.
Right. I'd say at most Ortiz will have to wait a year. Yeah. He'll breeze in second year. But I just have a feeling, and I think it has a lot to do with, it's just my opinion, that because nobody got in this year, I think they want to get somebody in next year, and I think that's going to get Ortiz a few extra votes.
The pressure's on.
Well, and also, let's call it straight. You'll have trouble finding a more popular inductee at the ceremonies than Ortiz is going to be. He's going to be hilarious. People like him. He's a lot of fun. He just is a fun guy. And I think that's going to really help him. Remember, it's baseball writers too. And there are very few guys that you can find who have been more accommodating to baseball writers over the years than David Ortiz. Yep. He's a smart guy. He's done a great job of building his own brand. But he also seems genuine. I never hear anything bad about this guy. I mean, he legitimately is a lot of fun. He's kind of like Barkley in the sense that, he really does like being around the fans and having a good time and being big. He likes being Big Papi. I think that's going to work in his favor.
That's obviously a flaw in all these processes. The NFL, the same thing. We're gonna bust T.O.'s balls forever because he's obnoxious. Like, he's in or he's out. That's it. We don't need to hear about your relationship with him, or if he was a pain in the ass, or you believe he was a cancer to his teams. Cut it out. He produced. We don't. I'm not even going to get into the NFL on cheating because no one will bring up that dirty secret. But yeah.
No. But look, image has a lot to do with it. And somebody brought up Sosa. I mean, Sosa might have been able to ride out the storm early on, but his image isn't real good. People think he's a nut.
Yep.
You do. And they might be right. He's kind of a strange guy. And I don't think that's done him any favors. So whatever chance he might have had, and it was borderline anyway, he's got no chance now. He will never get in. I don't think Schilling will either. For two reasons. One, I'm not sure. I think he thinks the Veterans Committee will look at him more favorably. That might have been the case 20 years ago if there was a Veterans Committee. But that Veterans Committee now is a lot more diverse than it used to be. I don't think he's getting in. And I can tell you this, whether you are a believer that Schilling should get in or shouldn't get in, had Schilling gotten in, there were going to be current Hall of Famers who at the very least would have refused to attend the induction, and at worst might have cut ties, might just cut ties with the Hall of Fame completely. He's popular with one group of people, and that's it. He is extraordinarily unpopular with a lot of others, and that's not a random opinion. That's fact.
Right.
And that's in baseball.
And this isn't just that's the thing with Schilling. It's not the recent stuff. With Q and the right wing stuff. He was a fucking dickhead when he played. And I brought it up on both shows. His behavior in the 2001 World Series, just shaming Byung-Hun Kim. And that's why, if folks didn't figure it out, I sent out a picture of Byung-Hun Kim on the teaser about 2 hours ago. He did shit like that all the time. Jim Fregosi nicknamed him Red Light Kurt because he always knew where the camera was. He always going to play to the camera. And then, listen, I don't know what happened with the bloody sock thing. I still don't believe it was real. I think he was carrying, some sympathy there. But he's a creep. And it's funny. He always claims, like, you're going to have a teammate come out and say a bad thing about me. I'm like, I don't know that many are going to step up and say a good thing about you, bro.
No, he's not going to go down in history as baseball's most beloved teammate. And what he's done since baseball. I mean, again, I'm not.
Yeah.
He's welcome to his opinion, and he can say whatever he wants, as far as I'm concerned.
You want to play that bit?
But there are consequences.
All right, Dave. We're going to close on this. First of all, someone was asking earlier about college basketball. You got anything going on tomorrow? You interested in anything?
Yeah, I haven't played anything yet. I think I'm going to play Texas State in the morning. They'll have a quick revenge from a loss tonight. Game they probably should have won, and I've been focusing a lot on these quick rematches, especially with the home team who lost the first game. It's been working pretty well. Texas Tech's going to be really popular tomorrow in their matchup, and with good reason. I mean, they're off 2 losses. I think they're going to be more serious about the game than their opponent tomorrow. It's a non-conference game. And Florida State right now, I mean, you just basically make the bet and cast a ticket. I mean, that team is on fire.
Yeah.
So there's a few thoughts. I said I would give out the Super Bowl, my Super Bowl opinion tonight.
Do it.
So I did a video on this. If you want to see an expanded version, just follow me on Twitter at Dave Cokin, and it's on my timeline, and you can watch it. It's a 1 minute and 58-second video with basically no promotion, so it's mostly about the game.
Is it Wager Talk or just on your own?
Oh, it's on my own or at Wager Talk. But if you follow me at Dave Cokin, it's on my timeline. But I took the Bucks +3 at even money. And if you want the analysis, go watch the video.
All right. There you go. UNLV is off until Sunday. They play Reno on Sunday. I don't think there's a number out yet.
No.
I would assume Reno, I don't know. I don't have power ratings near me, but maybe Reno like 4, something like that. Maybe higher. I don't know. Maybe higher. Bryce Hamilton's pretty beat up right now. So the Rebels
it showed the other night. That's the worst I've ever seen him play.
It was ridiculous. He had I felt bad for him because he was trying, but he was going against a good defender, a big guy, a big strong guy, and Marco Anthony, and he couldn't turn the corner, and so it sucked. So hopefully he, a couple of days off, he can get a little healthier.
I would
That's
say
actually that would good.
UNLV power rating number would be Nevada 2.
That's it.
Yeah, UNLV is probably better than Nevada at this point. I'm not impressed with the Wolfpack.
Well, but Hamilton is a massive part. Like this, Hamilton's not your normal like, hey, he's hurt. He's so vital to what they do.
I think that series is a split. By the way, that's one where I think real good chance the loser of the first game wins the second game. So you might want to just sit back and watch the first game and make a bet on the team that came out second best in the first game to win the second game.
I would say you need UNLV to win the first because I'm not super confident in the second. If Bryce bouncing back after a day and a half off, because that clearly was a big contributing factor to them winning game 1 and then not really competing for part of the second half because Bryce was just beat to hell at that point.
Although Boyd Jenkins really,
he's good.
He's not going to defend real well because he's small. He's just small, but guy can play, and you can see why he was a guy that TJ wanted to bring with him from his old school. He's a good player.
He's a scorer, and I actually hope with the year of eligibility not going bye that he actually stays around for 2 more seasons. So I don't know that he has like grand aspirations of playing professional basketball. I know he wants to get into communications. I'm not sure if he wants to get into sports broadcasting, but
no, he should stay. Take advantage of it. I think he can become more popular and build his own brand.
Yep.
I think everybody in the team should stay. I don't think Bryce is going to play in the NBA, but I think he could. This team's going to be better next year than they are this year, and I think that could be something that helps Hamilton boost his own rating, if you will. I don't know that Bryce. I don't think he's a first rounder.
I don't think he gets drafted. I think he has a chance.
He could be a second rounder.
Yeah,
if he sticks around for another year, I think he could ascend to being a second rounder because I think the Rebels will get more attention next year. I think they're going to be a good team.
He's a professional basketball player somewhere for sure. So
yeah.
We'll see with the NBA. The bigger worry with Bryce Hamilton is, I can't call all college coaches scumbags, but there will be people calling on Bryce to transfer.
Well, look, if somebody calls on him and it's from a top A-level program where he's going to get featured minutes on a great team, can't knock him for doing that if it happens.
So we'll see if Gonzaga probably has him ranked, 34th on their list. So as they go down their list of people they're going to grab somehow, somehow they're getting all these premium players to go of all places, Spokane, Washington.
Well, Mark Few and the chance to play in a Final Four. not bad. But Hamilton could be a guy who ends up on the radar of say, I don't know, like an Arizona State.
Yeah, that was actually
That's
the rumor.
type of program that
just so you know, the rumor was that Arizona State was
Yeah.
calling on him. They were making the run at him. So very.
And after this year,
I'm sure you knew that. So the very astute on your part.
That's why I mentioned it. And after the season they're having right now,
Yep.
that phone's going to be ringing again because they're going to have to get some pieces in there next year. It's been a bad season for Hurley and company.
Yeah. And of course, this sweetheart here, Chris Beard, anything he can do.
I don't think he's a fit at Texas Tech. That's not his style of player. He really likes the real gritty guys. And I'm not knocking him for that. Because
he could also be leery of UNLV players because Tomboy sat out last year. A lot of people thought he got screwed in terms of eligibility, and he made it like freaking 4 weeks this year. And he may have some more serious problems than we know about, so I don't want to mock on it, but he didn't stick that one out, which is weird because he stuck it out all of last year, and then he was out within 3 games.
Yeah, that's I think I'm of the opinion when it happens at 2 schools, that's probably the player.
Yeah, or a handler.
Yeah.
Or a handler.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think we have a local product who played at a variety of schools coming out of Las Vegas. Who some of it was him. I think some of it was the handlers as well.
Oh boy, you're not going to say the name?
Let's see if anybody can guess. He was much ballyhooed coming out of high school.
All right, we're talking basketball, right?
Basketball, one football.
Does it rhyme with mate?
That would be the football version.
Okay.
The basketball version. Basketball version would be his dad was very visible. Let's put it that way in terms of getting involved wherever he went. And I think he probably is a guy who. It's just my view, but I think he'd just been left alone to go out there and be a college basketball player at a good program. I think he might have been really good, and instead he was a bust, total bust. Anybody know?
Who's guessing?
It's not that long ago. Somebody should know this.
Thinking.
No, it doesn't rhyme with Habaz Shuma. We'll give you a hint. White guy. Come on, you guys. Reputation for being a great outside shooter. That kind of went away. But he certainly loved to shoot from outside. No, not Chase Jeter. Come on. Chase didn't turn out to be a great player. No, not Zim. Outside shooter. What, probably 6'5", 6'6", somewhere in that area? Couldn't miss coming out of high school. Missed at a variety of schools. Well, okay, you're right.
Yeah, I was thinking your
right.
clue there kind of threw everyone off because he was actually a SoCal guy.
You're right. I'm sorry. I screwed that up. Yeah. But that's who it was. He became a local guy, so to speak. But that's who it was.
Yeah, Reinhardt. Modern
day.
I
you know what? That was my mistake. He's a Southern California kid. But so sorry about that. Bad clues. But he certainly fit the bill of someone where it is widely the opinion is that family members did not do him any good.
It's insane. The guy was given everything he wanted his freshman year at UNLV. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted. And they're like, not good enough. Like, wait, what? We bent over backwards for you. You potentially ruined the freaking chemistry on the team. You're leaving? God damn it.
And the thing is, I always thought, geez, he's got a chance to be a great player. He was really athletic. He had all the skills. When I first saw him, this kid's going to be an NBA player.
But he was one-dimensional. He wasn't a point guard. They insisted he was a point guard. He's not a point guard. He was he was a
shooting guard
guy. He really couldn't create his own shot. It's like, dude, realize who you are. Your family's blowing you up too much. You're an 11-point per game, 3-point specialist for 4 years at a school, and he didn't do that. So
yeah, and let's just say, didn't have a great attitude.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it was.
I didn't know him.
Was the family.
Based on everything. Yeah.
I agree with you. A lot of it was the family.
Yep. No, we've seen family interfere before, and because they think their kid is worth $9 zillion and is the greatest thing since the ballpoint pen, and all of a sudden he's competing with a lot of other guys who are just as good, and you better tuck the ego away a little bit. And he got exposed, and it actually got worse for him when he left UNLV because his game got worse. The other guys that were mentioned, I think they were just kind of overrated. I think Zim was just overrated, and I think Chase Jeter was just overrated. They hit their ceilings a little too soon. But I never thought that they were. I think they were both likable guys who really tried. It just didn't work out.
Oh, I'll get her all mad. She came out of the woodwork a couple weeks ago. I'd forgotten about her for like the last 3 years. Her 15 minutes of fame was up, but Zim mom didn't help. So there were some family issues there, and there's no way Zim should have been a 3 or 4 year player in college.
Yeah,
I'll also say they made a mistake sending him to UNLV. He actually needed to get away from all this and go somewhere and get his fucking ass kicked at Kansas or Kentucky and have to work to play and have Calipari yourself just rake him over the coals. This wasn't the right spot. He needed to get away from that whole situation.
Yeah, and as for Chase, look, I can't knock him for going to Duke. I mean, if you get invited by Duke, you go. It just turned out that he just wasn't quite that level of player. Not much you can do about that. I've never heard anything negative about him as far as what type of guy he is. Or
like you said, it was he and Zimmerman were together. They both got way overranked. Both in the top like 15 or 20. He got over recruited by Duke, so it didn't work out. He seems like a solid citizen, and
yep.
I'm sure, he got his education. So
yeah, I've never met Chase, but I'm told he's just a real good guy, good guy. And I actually have not heard negative things about Zim either. The mom, she's ruffled some feathers, but people I know that know Zim, I don't know him myself, never met him, but people I know who know him say, "Oh no, he's a really good guy."
Yeah.
He just wasn't a great basketball player. Nothing wrong with that. No shame in that.
All right, last 5 minutes. Ready? Head to head. Old school Cofield and company yelling at each other, maybe. But my prediction is, well, I'll say this. I don't like what the Texans did today in handling Deshaun Watson. I don't like Nick Caserio coming out and saying we're not trading the player. I also saw the story that David Culley, the new coach, was told that Watson would be around. So they're pretty cocksure, the Texans, about keeping Deshaun Watson around. I don't like the timing of this. I don't think they should have said it right now. I think they should have let it cool down. This, to me, if I were Deshaun Watson, would make me dig in even more. I'm going to make the prediction that Deshaun Watson is not ready to go at the beginning of training camp, and this is going to get ugly. I may be wrong. Maybe they can heal it, and it'll all be solved, but I don't think the Texans are handling it the right way.
I agree on that part. But if I'm the Texans, I wouldn't be trading him just right now because he wants to be traded. I'm waiting. I might be waiting into training camp. It's not like the Texans are in a position right now to win anything anyway. They're not going to be very good next year. Okay, it wasn't the head coaching. It was the GMing on the part of O'Brien, and that they're in trouble. Okay, they're in the wrong division. There's some power in that division. They don't have. They made a horrible trade with Miami that they're going to pay for a couple of years. Wait around and get as much market value as you can. Now, where I agree is that he shouldn't be on Twitter. Let him go on Twitter and bitch. He's the player. He can do that. If you're the management, don't get involved in that. Just say, well, we'll do what we think is best for the team. We'll let you know what that is when we do it. I don't know why organizations get involved in these public spats with players. You're the organization.
That's the Texans, their leadership. Yep. Cal McNair is not Bob McNair, and this guy Jack Easterby is not a football guy. He's an egomaniac. Yep. He fancies himself some grand motivational dude and a fixer of people, and all he's done is broken things up there. Whoa, Dave, let me ask you. Now, we're both old, right? So we have a lot more perspective. Everything's not the end of the world like it is with young people. If I were Deshaun Watson, I absolutely would be comfortable sitting out the season. I would.
I hadn't thought of that.
He's already made $40 million. He's got, he's through 2025. He's whatever the contract was, 4 years, $156 million extension. He's making good money with endorsements. I don't know that anyone will actually drop him as far as the endorsements. I think now is the time. There will be so many people that would rally around Deshaun Watson if he sat out. I actually think he would add endorsements.
I hadn't thought of that. Don't disagree with it. Some people would be angry at him, but I don't know that they're football people. Fans wouldn't like it.
Right.
I think selfish, but
I think some NFL fans would like it. I think they look at the NFL and they're like, "Hey, this ain't fair. You get drafted somewhere and then they don't come through for you. They don't listen to you." Because here's the thing: if Aaron Rodgers, if 3 weeks from now Aaron Rodgers is in the same situation, like I'm done, I want out of here. Do you think people will hate Aaron Rodgers if he pushes it to the brink and threatens to sit out if he doesn't move?
No, and right? I think I said I think and I could be dead wrong on this. I think he's played his last game in Green Bay.
Ooh.
I think
why?
Because
it's that dire?
Well, I think two things happened. One, he was pissed on draft day. And he made no secret of it. He was really unhappy. He thought it was a slap in the face. And also, it's like, hey, we're real close to getting to the Super Bowl, and you're drafting a guy who's not going to play quarterback for how long? And Rodgers had said he wants to play into his 40s. So the idea that they drafted a quarterback in the first round was a big insult as far as Rodgers is concerned. And then you had the situation at the end of this last game. And you can say it was good strategy, bad strategy, that doesn't matter. As far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, it was awful strategy. He was not happy after the game. And I can see Rodgers saying, you know what, this has come to an end. I want to go someplace. Now, there are salary cap issues that might make it difficult for a year. He's a lot more tradable in 2022 than he is in 2021. You get a dead cap hit of like $17.5 million, something like that. But, NFL teams can work their way around that. And if Rodgers, I think he's biding his time right now. We'll see if he cools off or not. But if he stays pissed, and if he looks at the situation and says, we're not getting any better at this point, this was the best shot we're going to have, he could force his way out of there. And there's a lot of teams that would be willing to pay significantly to get Rodgers for a couple of seasons. I mean, you could name a bunch of them. I know the 49ers have got Garoppolo, but I think they'd rather have Rodgers. I know the Rams probably want to move on from Goff.
Well, they do. The story was out today that they're kicking the tires on Stafford.
Yep. So they'd be interested. There's just a whole bunch of teams. And it's a limited number only from the standpoint of he's not going anywhere where he's not going to contend right away. So I don't, it's not like Rodgers would. I've heard people say, the Patriots probably aren't contenders for the next couple of years.
Nope.
So I don't think it would be there. But, would I be unbelievably shocked if somehow he ended up in Chicago?
Oh, boy.
I mean, the Bears had a quarterback. They'd be a really good team. They're that bad at that position. They've got some good talent, great defense. I mean, could you look at possibly, I know New Orleans says they're ready to go with Jameis Winston / Hill, but if Drew Brees makes it official, the Saints are pretty close. I could see that. I think there's a real chance he's not going to play in Green Bay anymore. I don't think he's going to retire.
Brady says Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show, that he didn't plan on leaving. I want you to listen to this and let's see if he actually said that or it was more just backing down a little bit and reiterating, like, I'm not committed to anything right now because it's an unknown. So let's see if he actually said he may have said he didn't plan on leaving. Let's see what he says here, which, by the way, also is very open-ended. I don't plan on it, but, 2 months later, I'm out.
Now, obviously, after the season that I had and, potentially win an MVP and, we obviously made it another good run, I don't think that there's any reason why I wouldn't be back.
Okay, right. I don't think.
Okay. That's a long ways from can't wait for training camp.
Let's listen to it again. Listen to the rest of the cut.
Think that there's any reason why I wouldn't be back. Okay. But there's not many absolutes, as you guys know, in this business.
Oh.
So to make an absolute statement about something that is not an absolute, just I didn't do it, and I guess that's why I went kind of nuts.
Yeah, there you go. He's very coy. He knows he's got some plan here. There's something he's working, and I know some people in the chat room are saying, "Hey, he just wants an extension or more money, maybe," but he's working something.
I think he wants to win a Super Bowl. He's got all the money he wants. Okay, it's not a financial thing for Rodgers. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's a superstar. He's only got one championship. I think he really wants another one. And by the way, I think does he now have the record for most conference championship losses? I don't think
Is that right?
I don't think that's something he's real happy about.
Has he been to 5 or 6? So is he 1-4 or 1-5 now?
I think it's 1. I think he's 1-5. I'm not good on trivia, so I might be wrong. Does Jerry Jones make a run at Aaron Rodgers? No, he's not going to Dallas.
Does
I
Jerry
would be shocked if he went to Dallas. They've got Prescott, first of all.
Right.
And I know he's coming off an injury, but Prescott's a really good quarterback, and he's still young. And the Cowboys suck.
Does Jerry Jones fire Mike McCarthy first? Then he makes a run at Aaron Rodgers.
That ain't
going to work either.
Yeah. And that's the other thing in the Packers. If Matt LaFleur was in his 4th or 5th year, I think he'd have gotten fired. But he's not, and you can't fire the guy off the 2 years he's had. You really can't.
Right.
But I will tell you this.
That was ridiculous.
And I got a lot of criticism for this, but I've seen it happen before. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure, but I've seen it happen before. I've seen coaches who, when they lose the team, they just can't get it back. Grady Little is the most shining example of this. When he left Pedro in too long, and everybody knew it, except Grady. Even Pedro knew it. Pedro thought he was coming out of the game. He never got the team back again, and he was gone by the middle of the next season. I think LaFleur lost the team. I would almost guarantee you that if you surveyed the entire roster as to whether they thought he made the right move, kicking the field goal on 4th down, I believe it would be unanimous that he did not. That's how you lose a team. And sometimes you can't get it back.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even a major thing. I said this last year, the first game of the season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, regular season, first game. And Mike Babcock, for whatever reason, decided to make Jason Spezza a healthy scratch. Spezza's been in the league for 15 years. He's a very well-respected veteran. And home opener for the new season, and he's got him sitting in the press box. And the team was not happy about it. The players of the team were really pissed about it. They didn't all come out and say it publicly, but you knew it was there. And Babcock was gone within a month. I personally think LaFleur will be in the hot seat going into next year.
Dang.
If Rodgers is still there.
Yeah.
I hope he does go someplace else. I'd like to see it.
I like the point. Cowherd's very good. Colin Cowherd's very good. I know people think he's trolling often, and I think he does. But there are some points he makes where you're like, man, that is really smart. And I've definitely jumped on this one. I don't understand why. I don't understand why Deshaun Watson signed the deal with the Texans, right? Based on what he had seen to that point, you knew about the McNairs and the whole, inmates run the prison, and that Cal eventually was going to take over, and that Easterby was circling around, and that it's a mess of an organization. Why resign? And Colin made the same comment about Aaron Rodgers. Like, if you repeatedly are disappointed in your organization's personnel moves and they don't ask you, why would you resign?
Especially when you're Aaron Rodgers.
You're going to have 20 teams making a run at you.
Yep.
If he hadn't signed.
Well, I think he liked being the face of the Packers. It's a great organization, and and it's something I think some players do like the idea of playing their entire career with one team. But even Brady left. I mean, you can't be more of a face of a franchise than Tom Brady was. And even he left. And on a lesser level, Phillip Rivers left. You can go through history. A lot of quarterbacks they'll never leave, left. There's been a few who didn't. But Peyton Manning left. He ended up with the Broncos. If Rodgers, if Rodgers looks at this and says, I've got a better chance to win a Super Bowl someplace else, I think he's going to say, I need to get out of here. we'll do whatever it takes in terms of defer whatever as far as the salary cap's concerned. But I got to go. Now, I don't think he's going to say it publicly. He didn't in that interview, but he didn't say he wasn't either.
So Cam's saying that 4-loss thing in the championship game, Brady, McNabb, then Rodgers, Stabler. So that means Brady is 7 of 11. Ooh, he lost 4 games. He sucks. He's 7 of 11 in conference championship games.
Is it 7? No, it's got to be more than that. How many? This is going to be what? His 10th Super Bowl?
That's a good point. It would be 10 of 14 then.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I was thinking championships. 10 of 14.
That's amazing.
And then McNabb did lose all those times with Andy Reid. Failures, the both of them, right? All right, so that's a good answer there. By the way, to close out, I just wanted to mention a good week from Ari. Producer Ari booked us some really good guests. I know Brady was very impressed. We were talking about Patricia today, and we had on a dude named Miles Killebrew who played at Foothill in Southern Utah. So he's a guy that we started talking to when he first got in the NFL with the Lions, and I thought he was good today. And the other one, look for the archive up on LV Sports Network, because Stanford Route has gotten better and better and better. And, man, there's like no holds barred. He fucking annihilated the Texans today. Like on every front. He was killing Cal McNair and this Easterby guy, just killing him. I love that. I love when athletes are like, hey, let's go. No holds barred. Love it.
Yeah, so do I.
I don't want to comment on that. Stanford's like, okay, whatever. Let's go. Great. It's great.
Gotta have some guys like that. It makes things more enjoyable.
Yes. Thanks. Appreciate it, Chitter. Good job. Yep. Doug, 10 of 14, 10 and 4 in the title games. Dave, what else you got going on Wager Talk this weekend and early next week?
I don't know. I haven't put anything up for tomorrow. I'll put it up in the morning. It's been a good month. Very good month. So it's just grinding things along. The hockey's been great. Basketball's been okay. I'm 2-0 in golf this week. And football season was a good football season. One more game. I'd like to win it. I don't really care that much if I don't. I'm not very good in the Super Bowl, by the way. Should know that. You're not going to hear me saying I never lose the Super Bowl. I lose it constantly. So, tail or fade at your own risk.
We've been warned. I already played the Chiefs, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens leading up to the game. You know, I bet big, so you have to be careful.
Well, that was you with that multi-million-dollar.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Not even close. Not even close. All right, guys. Dave, appreciate it. Thanks, you guys, for supporting the show and watching all week. And we'll have all the audio podcast up later tonight, and you can listen during the weekend. So we're back on Monday with the